Hey, what it do? We back again. The three amigos, three musketeers, three nugget ronies. What
We
it do?
back,
What
boy.
it do?
Finally,
Nugget Ronies.
Joseph.
Return of the Yosef. Yo,
Look, man, it's been. I'm glad. Thank y'all for holding it down the last couple episodes. It's been a busy ass month, but it's finally winding down.
yo, we were just talking before we got on about that. What is it called again? The game?
Unsolved case files.
Unsolved Case Files. It's like a
Yeah.
board game, right?
No, it's actually like they make it as realistic as possible. You get a bag of evidence. And the story we got were missing twins, and the detective that was leading the case was missing, and we found her notebook. So step one is finding the accomplice. So you read her notebook, you go through all the evidence, and you pick who's the accomplice. You solve that, you go online, you scan the page, you take it to this website, and it has you put in which pieces of evidence shows the accomplice. It gives you as many tries as you want, and it gives you 3 hints. And it's though because I might clip this because everybody's been asking me how the game is. So it gives you hints if you want them. You don't have to take them. It gives you a chance to take one every time you get it wrong. So we took the 3 hints on the first one because we were figuring it out. And they were like, all right, bet. So once you get that, you get to open another set of special evidence. And that takes you to the next part. Then you have to find the killer. Then you have to find where the detective is. And each thing is step by step. And after you pass a certain step, they give you more information. They give, and all the way until the end where you solve the whole case.
My bad. All right. I got two questions. The first one is, how much did your mother's intuition help you to solve the case?
I'm terrible. Wifey's good. I'm terrible. Like I took the first time. I said, "Oh, that's it. Oh, his background check says strangler. That's it. That's him." Put the answer in wrong. I'm like, damn. So me, I jumped the gun on everything. But for
Is it
her,
like a winner or loser, or you just kind of figure it out together?
no, yeah, you just figure it out together. Yeah, it's
Okay.
everybody playing together. Whoever plays it.
That's dope.
Yo, man, it's crazy because I recently, I would say recently, like in the last couple months, found that Unsolved Mysteries podcast where they
Mhm.
got like all the episodes. Because I never really watched it like that, but my wife watches it. But on the podcast, I listen to it because I have a lot of time where I'm doing stuff and I could just listen to podcasts. And it's just so crazy to me how many things be happening and all these crazy things that be happening to people and their family members. And it just, that's it. It happens. The cops come. It's like, hey, too bad. And they're just left looking for answers like most of the time for their whole life. Like
Mhm.
it's so many people. Like we
Yeah.
don't even think about it because that kind of stuff, like you don't really see it on the news. Every once in a while, you'll see updates like on a big case or something, like, or they'll say that people are still looking for the family member or whatever. But
You
it's just
know,
crazy to me that like that happens like just so frequently, like almost every
yeah.
day.
I can tell the impact it had on the people, like the family, because if they're still cracking these cases 18, 20 years later because of new technology and new way to capture evidence, that means that family hasn't given up for 18 or 20 years to keep saying, yo, there has to be something, like there has to be an answer. And that's what majority of
I
cold
mean,
cases is. People just give up. People stop looking for
yeah,
the
I mean,
answers.
how do you give up? You know what I'm saying? It's crazy. And man, this is kind of like a hard transition, and I hope I'm not coming off as insensitive, Quincy, but the details around your father's death, was that
Mhm.
something that was figured out like, right away? Is it something that you took like what was the actual like issue there?
Yeah, no, they didn't actually end up. So basically, there was word of who killed my father, but the cops never got to him. They ended up dealing with him in the streets. Um,
Okay.
but yeah, like we didn't know for a long time, and then basically it got out because he admitted it to somebody, and it just became like a thing that spread.
Yeah, like
Um,
folklore kind of thing, like people just
yeah,
talking about it.
yeah, and we definitely was left with unanswered questions for sure.
That
Oof.
was in New Orleans, right?
Yeah.
That was kind of what prompted you guys to move over here.
Well, that's what prompted us to move to Atlanta. And then, we was in Atlanta for like 6 years, 7 years. And, my mom separating from my stepfather is what prompted us to move to Orlando.
Gotcha.
So, that's how we ended up in Orlando, from there.
Dang, it's kind of crazy because I honestly didn't even think about taking that turn with it. But as we were talking about it, I just remembered, I'm like, dang, like Quincy could probably went through something similar like this because I kind of remember the details from when you've told me before, but I didn't want to, jump the gun and talk out of turn. You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Yeah, yeah, for
But
sure.
it's just, I mean, since we were talking about it, like, how does that affect like your family? You know what I mean? Like, is it something that you feel that lingers on? That might be a stupid question because obviously it's your father. It's a missing person from your life, somebody that could have given you so much. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So I know from that aspect, but just as far as like the real life aspect, people that actually are going through it, how did that affect you?
Yeah, I mean, it still affects me, you know what I'm saying? But in the, you know, main essence of the question is like, for me, it made me much more like I didn't deal well with my stepfather. I haven't dealt well with any kind of like person that was supposed to be a fatherly figure, like dealing with my mom, just because of what I've seen. It went from losing my father to like dealing with my stepfather, and it was like after that, it was like, I kind of already knew what was good. But as far as to make it another even turn with it, I know someone that has those questions unanswered, like
Mhm.
period. Like it's just a mystery, and she was close to me, in the past, but that part of it is crazy because you really kind of got to live with it, and there's no justice. And I feel like we see that all the time, the no justice things, and people don't really realize like how much that makes the situation so much worse than it could be.
Bro, the thing that's also like so crazy to me slash one of those things about life that you just really don't understand why that kind of stuff happens is like, you know, you got people like me that my dad just wasn't around. You know what I'm saying? Nothing wrong with him. He just wasn't around. I know, people that like you that lost your dad in a way like that was just so unfair and so tragic. I know
Hmm.
people that lost their dad in an accident, you know what I mean, where it's, they have answers, but it's still unfair and tragic.
Mhm.
Hmm.
So there's just so many angles of that. And just having those people in your life, what the lack of them being there means, what them being there means, you know what I'm saying? Because that's something that I'm like real conscious of with my son. He asked me a lot of questions, and I remember like distinctly being a kid and thinking those things and having nobody to ask it to. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And just kind of trying to navigate things as a little kid with, you know, my left to my own devices. And it just leads you down a path of like so many wrong decisions. Cause it's like, how are you gonna learn like that? You know what I mean?
No, that's facts.
And
Definitely
it's
facts.
just crazy, like, you know, for whatever reason, just having that lack of somebody there, or just that figure, or just a positive role model in your life, because your dad was a young guy that was already in the Marines. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? He had recently got signed to a record label. You know what I'm saying? He's a guy that understands what he needs to do, but still has like that creative side and that talent. And
Hmm.
he's exploring both of those things. So and it's something that like I see a lot in you too. So it's just interesting to think about like what could have been. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
just how much more ahead you would have been with things now, even. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? If you would have had somebody with that knowledge to kind of like put the battery in your back from younger, instead of you just having to kind of like figure it out and navigate it in your own way, which is kind of something I feel about myself as well. Like, I feel like I took a lot longer on some things just because
Hmm.
I didn't have anybody around to even just show me an example of like, yo, this is the right and good way to do things and to be a successful person, or to be a somebody that's going to be able to provide the right way. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Yeah,
And
no, that's
even
real.
And even just from the point of view of somebody like Joe that did have that presence, you know what I'm saying, and knowing how strong of a bond you have with your father, you know, how does that kind of like hit you?
That's a sensitive topic for me, man. But I think, you know, it's a unique perspective, every single person. Like, you know, you guys may not have had that father figure, but the character you guys have, I think, and I would ask, you know, did that play a part of who you are today? How you if you need to do something, you got to do it on your own.
You know,
You know,
and kind of based off what you're saying, another crazy angle of it is there's also people that their dad being there was a detriment to their success. So it's just, I mean, it goes back to like a thing
yeah.
that we talk about a lot, and something that is always such a central theme of the podcast is just how, you know, things just have no rhyme or reason. We have no control. We have no say. You know, all you can control is what you do, how you navigate, you know, your thoughts and how you treat the people around you and stuff like that. Because
Yeah.
everything else, man, you know, the way this life goes, that's why I appreciate in the moments is such a big thing. You know what I mean? Even like talking about my son, you know, thinking about my daughter, my wife. Like there's so many times that I'm so conscious of, let me soak in this moment, because there's no guarantee that it's coming back. You know what I mean? Like, and you never know when the last time of anything is. You know what I mean? It just
Yeah.
it happens and that's it.
Like in the perspective of me and my father, I think 20 years ago when we moved to Florida, right? I'm 13,
Did y'all
and
move
he's
here from out of the country, or were you already in the country?
yeah. No, I was born in New York, then we lived in San Francisco till I was 10, and then we moved to Florida, and
Oh,
I've
okay.
been
Yeah,
here. Yeah.
you were never in South America.
Um, for a little bit of time. So I was born in New York, and my sister was born in San Francisco, and that's where the family was. And then New York was the first place any of my family ever came from Peru, and it was all my dad's brothers and cousins. They got word that we got to go to the U.S. We're gonna go to New York, and that's where we're gonna find work, and that's where we're gonna get money. They did that. They went back to San Francisco. They went to San Francisco, and that's where everybody. That's all my family and everybody's there now. My grandma was there, um, and then my sister was born. Some other work came up. We went back to New York. I was born there. I was born there. 3 months later, we left. I didn't even live there for more than 3 months. Went back to California. I stayed there with my mom, and my sister for a bit. My dad had to go back to Peru to handle business. I went back to Peru with him. My first probably 1 to 3 years old, I grew up in Peru, only knowing Spanish. I didn't even know English. Um, and
That's how it
then
was.
right before I had to start school, they took me back to Peru. I meant to California, and I pretty much started preschool, kindergarten, elementary school, middle school, and then halfway between middle school, I moved to Florida. So yeah, I bounced around as a kid. Got a lot of different that's why, like, nobody could really, like, I do have the New York like type of slang just because I grew up on the East Side and everybody's sort of from New York. But I have certain dialect that comes from just growing up only talking Spanish, and then growing up on the West Coast, and then growing up on the East Coast. It's bouncing around. But what I wanted to say was that, you know, we'll call it yeah, I'm about to turn 40. So about 30 years ago, hitting 10 years old, my pop's in his 40s, probably the age that I'm approaching. And I think about me today with a 10-year-old. You know what I mean? Like living the life I live. And like one thing I saw was realize after time that my dad was still growing up. You know, he was still growing up when I was 10. That means when he was 30, he had me. So seeing him still grow up and me grow up, it was a battle of, so who knows more? You know, that was my ignorant thoughts. So having him there and having him guide me and me making every wrong decision I did all the way through my 30s shows that it's also you. If you have that father figure and you have that guy, I mean, he's helped me in a lot of things, but the stuff that could have made me 10 times better than I am today earlier, I didn't listen. I didn't take heed to it. I lost everything I should have kept till today because I didn't listen to his advice. More things playing there, but I didn't listen to his advice. I was too stubborn. So that's why I see y'all, and I see y'all as having a lot more character and a lot more responsibility than me that I had at your age. I mean, we're not that far apart, and I always say it, but those 4 or 5 years is still a long time to grow up. You know, and I didn't grow up till recently. Y'all grow up way before I. So that's why it's like I do see it both ways, but at the same time, like I had my father and I still continue to mess up because I didn't listen, and that plays 100% on me. So I think it also relies on the person.
Yeah, that's real. I feel like I see it all the time where my bad, that's real quick. I was gonna say, I see it all the time that like you know, I feel like some of the misfortunes that I had as a kid made me mature much faster than I had to mature. And I'm not just speaking from my perspective. I feel like just in general, when you're in a situation where, you know, you got to provide for yourself or you got to, you know what I'm saying? You cooking dinner because, you know, mom working 2 jobs or something like that. It just forces you to grow up a little faster than you would expect to.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, facts. You know, I was just thinking when Joe was talking, like it's kind of crazy because you know, just hearing your perspective on how you know, you're saying your dad was still growing up, he was 30 and everything. Dog, my mom was 16, you know what I mean, when she had me. Like she came over here, you know, pretty young. I was like 4 or 5 when we left Puerto Rico. But you know, she kind of came out here like not with no support, but very uncertain terms, and not any of like her family holding her down. You know what I mean? And I just think back at like a lot of the stuff, like kind of like Quincy was saying, you know, like the way we grew up, it had its challenges, definitely. But I look at it from the point of view of like her, and even it's something that Aziz Ansari was talking about. I don't remember if it was on in a stand-up, it was on a show. I don't remember what platform, but I know it was him. And he was talking about like what our parents, like people like us that are like uh how do you say it? We come from immigrants, you know what I mean? Like we're like that. There's a word for like first generation Americans or whatever. I don't know, but basically like me and you, Joe, that we came to the U.S. but like through our parents, basically.
Yep.
It's just crazy to think about what they did to like better their lives and better our lives. That I don't know if I would have had the courage to do that. You know what I'm saying? Especially having a kid at 16, like going to United States, you know what I mean? Like, nah, bro, like it's crazy. And it's just it's wild too, because kind of like what you're saying, Joe, and what you were saying, Quincy, about just learning certain things and the way we grew up, you know, you're forced to grow up faster and stuff. I feel like that what I saw going on like in my house and just like the situations that my mom went through, and you know, with my dad, my brother's dad and everything, it just made me really understand like how you really need to treat a woman. You know what I'm saying? Like I seen her get treated wrong so many times that I'm just like, man, like how do you as a man view yourself as a man when you're not treating a woman how she should be treated? You know what I mean? And it was something that like really stuck with me always, you know what I mean? And it's something that we've all been talking about. We always talk about it anyway, because luckily we're a close-knit group of guys that value being stand-up guys, you know what I'm saying? Which is not something that's common in a lot of friend groups. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy to think about from the point of view of, you would think that people are going to kind of check themselves to be better, but there's just so much like black clouds that you could be a part of. And sometimes you don't notice it. Sometimes you think, oh, I'm going to be the light in this cloud. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, there's a lot of friendships that I had to just, you know, back away from for that reason, man. That just for that reason alone. Like I pride myself today, and I won't say I've been perfect my whole life, but there's a day where I chose I'm not gonna be that kind of guy anymore, and I haven't been that guy since. It has been years, and I feel great, and I feel great that I can say that. And going back to people even my age or even older who still think the way I used to think back then, I see them as like way behind me, and I can't. I can't keep that going.
Yo, crazy, man. That ties in perfectly with something that we've been talking about recently about that Young Rock show. We touched on it before, but just the concept, I don't think we touched on it on the show, but the concept of The Rock didn't even put Shawn Michaels in that show because they had so much internal beef that The Rock never wanted to wrestle him. You will never pull up a match that's The Rock versus Shawn Michaels. You can Google it, you can look for it. You're not going to find it because The Rock refused to work with him. He never wanted to work with him. You watch the Young Rock show, bruh. Shawn Michaels is a sexy white boy honky. And he's a black dude that looks like Jax in the Young Rock show, bruh. Like he went like The Rock said, dog, I don't even want you to look like Shawn Michaels.
Yeah.
Like you're gonna play him. We're gonna give you a new name. We're gonna give you a new look. The only thing that he kind of matched was the deep voice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Aside from that, he said, dog, you ain't getting no shine, bro. You tried me to the max. You're not, and he even addressed it in the show, in the episode, like straight up, just like kind of took a detour in the episode to just say, hey, man, y'all know who this guy is. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna say who it is, but y'all know what it is, and I don't like him, and that's what it is.
Yep, facts.
And basically, what I was trying to say by bringing that up is just the fact that Shawn Michaels was a person that himself will say had a very checkered past. He was a jerk. He treated people unfairly. He didn't treat people the right way. He was on drugs. He was high on a power trip because he was one of the top wrestlers in the WWF at the height of his popularity. And he's made amends with the situation. He's made his apologies. And from all accounts, he's a changed guy. He's a different guy.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. But from all accounts, you don't hear bad things about Shawn Michaels coming out. You know what I'm saying? And there's so many, like, wrestling is a community of like hundreds of people that are working with each other on a regular basis. So all this information gets out. You know what I'm saying? There's no way you keeping that in-house when there's hundreds of people interacting every day, And, in the last, I would say, 20 years or so, you haven't heard a bad word about Shawn Michaels. And it's just crazy because when they tell you to be the bigger man or whatever the case is, somebody like The Rock, he acknowledges, hey, there's animosity from the past. I'm not going to acknowledge him directly because of that. He gave him his due. He wasn't unfair about it when he said it on the show and when he's talked about it in interviews. And he moved past it, but the way that he moved past it was, I don't need to be around you. I don't need to see you. We don't need to be friends, and there's kind of like this conception, like misconception. To me, it's a misconception that if you make peace with somebody, you got to like be cool with them, or you have to tell them, or, you have to have the interaction, or you have to keep a cordial, I don't subscribe to that. What do y'all think about that?
No, I think that, just because, we squashed, whatever was happening in the past doesn't mean I'm gonna rock with you after the fact. You know what I mean? It's like at the end of the day, you know what I'm saying? We had a falling out that altered whatever trust may have been there. And, that changes things. That, we can squash it, but at the end of the day, I'm not about to deal with you the way I was dealing with you. And if the trust was abused that much, I'm not about to deal with you at all.
Yeah. No, and I can speak personally. That there probably is probably just one person that broke my trust, broke the trust of a lot of people in our circle, and then years later, I've seen him at some place where that's the last place I want to talk to you, buddy. And I feel that they took advantage for that, and I probably didn't feel anything. But that probably pissed me off even more. Like, you really needed that right now, where we're at right now, that closure. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I'm good, never talking about it or that person again. And I'm good. That's it.
Yeah.
I moved on. I don't think about it anymore. I don't lose sleep over it. I hear their name. I see something about them. I no longer feel anything. But that doesn't mean we ever got to talk about it or shake hands ever again. I'm sorry. It's been fucking 15 years and I probably still don't want to do it.
I'm with you though, man. It's like, kind of like along the lines of what we talk about on the show all the time. It's your life. You could kind of, pick the pieces out and put the pieces in that makes sense. And that goes with people. And that goes with the time, the people you spend your time with, the people that you're around. You know what I'm saying? It's something that I talk about a lot, like with my wife. It's something that I vent about a lot. Is I always feel like with the background that I have as far as growing up, spending so much time like outside in the neighborhood and just like all the crazy things that we've been through, I chose to turn everything around as far as like the way that I wanted to live my life and the way that I wanted to continue on, and seeing that is like such a dead end thing that I feel like it's unfair for me to have to be the one to lend the hand or be the one to help you out of jam or whatever, because I'm the one that decided to live a more peaceful life. Just because I chose peace doesn't mean I have room for your turmoil.
Yeah,
You know what
not
I'm
at all.
saying? Just because I chose to live a certain way and do things the right way doesn't mean, oh man, I'm in a jam, I'm gonna call you because I know that you're gonna be able to help me out because you're level headed and you know what I'm saying? You know how to deal with these things. Like, no, bro, that's not how this works. You don't get to be an idiot and then call me as a get out of jail free card, or use me as a counsel or something like that. Like, I'm not one of those type of people. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If I'm not dealing with you, or if you're on some stuff that I feel like is not something that I can get behind as a person, or I can respect that's what you want,
Hmm.
the whole thing is dead there. You know what I'm saying? It's off
Right.
rip. And it's not to say that it's something that's easy to do. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm not saying I'm over here like, heartless Bob and just cutting people off left and right as I travel through life with my scissors. You know what I'm saying? I'm
But you know what? You know what a quote that everybody says, and then one day, like I just started thinking about it. I was probably just like zooted and booted. And when people say, living in your head rent free, that means someone's just in your head and you don't want them to be, right? And so I'm like, I kind of see that. So I feel like over time, it's like a house. I rebuild a whole house in my head. The way I think, compartmentalize it. I build room for everything, build space for everything, and I continuously do that. And I think about when I do that, the things I do not want to live in my head rent free or live in my head, I know how to think about it. And sometimes I feel myself like cold. Like I'll talk to like some family or friends, and they'll ask me about something from the past, and I'll straight up say, "Yo, I didn't even think about that motherfucker no more. Like I don't even think about how they're doing. I couldn't tell you how they're doing today if I don't even think about how they're doing. It's probably one of my best traits, and they say like it's a cancer thing. Like once you're out of there, you're out of there, man. I don't let you sit in my brain and just think about how shit could have been or how we could have been. Like I move on from it. I try never to think about it again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now I feel that, man, because I actually I don't talk to my brother's dad, you know what I'm saying? And it's not even on some like how we're talking right now. It's not no beef, it's not no resentment or anything like that. It's really honestly, when he was around for like a few years, and I looked at him as a dad because of the time that he came around. I was real young, like I think I was like 2 or 3 or something. You know what I'm saying? Like that age and until like I got to like middle school, you know what I mean? So it was just like that real young age. And he was always on that stuff where he would like talk about my dad, like, oh, I can't believe your dad would do that. You know what I'm saying? Just leave a
Mhm.
kid, this, and that. And he did the same thing to me and my brother. You know what I'm saying? As soon as him and my mom broke up, he was gone. And that was it, bro. I seen him a handful of times after that. And now, you know, he's in the last like few years or whatever. It's been a few years now because I haven't spoke to, bro. I'm bad with time. Honestly, dog, it's been like a good like maybe like 4 or 5 years that I've spoke to him or
Mhm.
anything. But like back around then, he was trying to, build a relationship and try to like, start trying to build a relationship with my kids and stuff. And it's like, bro, one, we not related. Two, I don't even remember you like as a father figure, bro. Like I was a child, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? You left early,
You
so
don't
you're
feel
not
like
even
you owe them nothing either.
it's not even about feeling like I owe him anything. It's like I feel awkward even talking to him because it's like he's just an old guy to me.
I
You
got
know what
Mhm.
I'm saying? Like it's no there's no connection, there's no vibe, there's no, like, on my end, like, he might have some memories or whatever, dog, but it's like you chose to leave and that was it. You know what I'm saying? Like
Mhm.
that, and it kind of goes back to what Joe was talking about. Like, he was, I don't know how old he was at the time, but it's like he was already kind of grown. He's probably making his mistakes, obviously. You know what I'm saying? He had to rebuild this situation with my brother and everything. You know what I'm saying? And my brother's like super gracious. You know
Mm.
what I'm saying? My brother's so dope because he's able to like really articulate his feelings and talk about it in a very like matter of fact kind of way and tell you exactly how whatever you did made him feel. You know what I'm saying? And I always admire that about my brother because I'm just more like, I'm more cut and dry with it. You know what I'm saying? When it comes to
You
feel,
think that you think that's a bad personality trait?
I don't think it's a bad personality trait, but being able to dictate it the way he does is something that I would like to have in my arsenal.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? Like he almost like detaches himself from the feeling and like talks about it in kind of like a factual way. Like
yeah,
it's hard to explain, but it's very, to me it's just very emotionally intelligent,
Mhm.
and I just appreciate it because he was the one that really reached out to his dad to kind of rebuild the relationship because they were still having a relationship and they were still cool and everything, but it was like something that was kind of lingering in the air for him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I find that really interesting, bro, because that's kind of the same like dynamic I have with my sister and her dad.
Yep.
And it was the same thing as as we were kids. He wasn't, once my mom and him separated, he wasn't really around. But he would talk to Candace like every like, blue moon or whatever. And then like, the frequency of it, as she got older, kind of got better. But
Yeah.
at that point I'm grown, bro. We have no relationship.
Yeah, I feel that, dog. Cause like even you saying that just reminds me of like my brother would get like he would tell my brother he's gonna come pick him up, and my brother would like make his bag. He would literally, it was like a movie, dog. Like he was waiting by the door, bro.
God
He's
damn.
waiting by the door. That
like
was
that Will
back in the
Smith episode.
yo. He it just, and it was back in the day when we only had the house phone. So, and we only had the one line. So it was like he would tell everybody like, don't use the phone, don't do
Hmm.
nothing. My dad might call, he's running a little late, whatever, dog. He would have that man waiting there for hours sometimes, bro.
Man, that's
To
wild.
the point where my mom was like, yo, I'm not even gonna let you tell this guy that you're gonna pick him up because you
Hmm.
just keep breaking his heart. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And it was like, it was just a crazy thing to see. And when you had stepped away, Joe, I had mentioned to Quincy that it's just crazy to have that perspective that you had of, you're thinking about your dad's age and your dad, how he's dealing with that stuff at that time, and just thinking about it from my point of view of my situation. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
He was a pretty young dude probably at the time. I wasn't his kid. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
It was probably just the easy thing for him to do.
same kind of situation, bro. And
But hold on, let me
yeah, go
finish
ahead.
that thought because it goes to what I'm talking about, what I was talking about earlier. It's like, yeah, it was the easy thing to do, but it wasn't the right thing to do.
Mhm.
And when you live a certain kind of lifestyle and you do things a certain kind of way, that is something that I can't look up to. That's, that tie is gone. You know what I'm saying? And
Mhm.
that's something that to kind of even talk about what you were saying about certain traits, you wish you could have them or not have them. That's something that I really appreciate about myself, is the fact that it's very easy for me to set a boundary or make a change or be very, Quincy knows I can be just very blunt and say, look, this is how I feel about this, and that's it. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't.
Hmm.
And if it got to be some uncomfortableness after that, or if we got to go our separate ways or whatever it is, that's what's got to happen. But at the same time, I'm not about to be uncomfortable for nobody. That's
Hmm.
that's my thing. That's always been my thing. It's the thing that I always preach to my wife, even like, and I always tell her, even from like about me, like, when I tell you this, don't consider me when I'm telling you this, because if I'm the one that's ruining your peace or whatever the situation is, you do the same thing I'm telling you, you do it to me. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Like, at the end of the day, we're all living our lives, so we got to make sure we're happy and we're not letting all that extra little bullshit kind of get in the way. And like you said, when you were talking earlier about stuff living in your head rent free, that phrase, I definitely understand it, but it's not something I can relate to at all because I detached myself from that so long ago that nothing, things that don't matter, they not even
You
on
don't
my
even
radar,
think
bro.
about. You don't even think about. Yeah, and that's when someone asks me a question, I'm like, like I don't even think about that, let alone want to answer it. Like I really have to think about it to answer it, and I don't think about it, so I don't have an answer for it. Sorry.
Yeah, it's wild, man, and we're actually gonna probably cap this off because we're getting to the limit here now, and we're going to carry that into the next week's episode because we definitely want to talk about relationships and just different dynamics, and it's going to take us a lot of different places, and we're going to get a little different with the convo than we have, but these are definitely things that we've talked about amongst ourselves and observations that we've all made, mainly you, Joe, of just saying, you know, a lot of these things that we're just talking about just to talk about it, let's bring it up on the podcast and engage with the people that we engage with about these things that are a little more specific but just as important because it gives you like a reference point of like how to where these feelings come from and even just how they work and how these concepts, like when you put them into action, what they do for you, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, man, we're gonna end it right here for this week. So this is gonna kind of be like a little two-parter, but it's gonna be two different episodes, but they're gonna be kind of tied in. So definitely make sure y'all listen to both of them. If y'all want to leave anybody with anything before we cut this one off.
We back, man. Feels great to be back. I mean, like I said, last 2 weeks have been busy. Next episode, we're going to recap on that. There's a lot to catch up on. It was a perfect segue to next week. Lester's last point, and it matters in relationships, and we're going to get into that next episode.
And you could tell it's been a minute because we've had a lot to say, and we haven't even started talking about the stuff we wrote down for this
we haven't
show.
even got it.
Oh man,
But you left off on the perfect transition is even in a relationship, even in a marriage, whether you're dating, official, engaged, married, um, you have to continue to keep living for yourself. And if you care and love the people around you, you live for yourself, for them. And it's a way to balance it. But you can't give yourself all the way up and you can't give the relationship all the way up. That's something we're going to get into. A lot that's going on with me personally. And perfect segue. We're going to catch on next week. We got plenty of talks coming. I'm ready to talk my ass off. We in here.
Yo, Quincy, real quick, I gotta ask you this because I really meant to ask you it at the beginning, but I don't even know how I let this one slip, dog. Stay butter.